What I want to talk about today is a thought that I've been having for a while, and that I believe that experimentation is the new engagement for youth. And that today, in such a fast-paced media environment, brand relevance today, and we spoke about context before, is increasingly determined in the moment. So fame spikes even for the most famous brands. So you really have to be constantly on the buzz. So I think experimentation is a prerequisite for brands trying to create engagement with young people today. And I also want to start with one thought, in that I don't think it's about social media. I think it's about social ideas or tribal ideas. And there has been quite a few commentators speak a lot about this. And I think if you think about ideas that can spark a rapid mobilisation of youth, that should be your starting point, and then you should start thinking about the different touch points you can use to achieve that. But it's very much thinking about what's a social idea that can mobilise young people. As we all know, we've spoken about play already. The era of kind of one-way messages is long gone, and now young people, they don't just consume ideas, they want to participate. So to be successful with Gen Y, brands have got to let young people play with their ideas. And they do that by continually experimenting, involving them, collaborating with them. So you need to ask yourself, how are you playing with youth? And not in the physical sense, but how are you playing with them? So I know Jai spoke about brand stories before, but I am going to probably put a bit of a twist on that. And I believe today it's less about what your brand story is and more about what your brand's game is. Okay? So stories are one-way dialogue. You create a story and you put it out there. Whereas a game, a brand that creates a game derives instant interaction. And not just interaction, a one-on-one interaction, it's interaction within the tribe. So young people want to play games. They play it in life. Life is one big game, and this is especially relevant with Gen Y. So I think from a mindset perspective, we need to really think about how young people are playing and creating games with young people. The word tribe's come up a lot, and obviously I'm the last one to present it, but this audience, Gen Y, from the 15-year-olds to the 30-year-olds, they need to belong to a community, and it's hardwired, it's a primal need developed from birth. And for young people, happiness has always been a direct function of belonging to a tribe. And that gives them ways to kind of express themselves and form their self-identity. And Emily spoke a lot about music being a way for young people to form their self-identity. And this constant connectivity helps them interact with each other. So Web 2.0 and social media has really kind of turbocharged these social interactions young people are having. So it's about, as we know, it's about friending, updating, tagging, gifting, texting, MMSing. It's like the in generation. So the goal of kind of modern marketing is to get all these young people connecting with each other over kind of interesting cultural objects or phenomena. And I guess the challenge is for brands to help kind of spark those. Social media platforms has kind of enabled swarm behaviour. So think of young people like a swarm. So like a swarm of bees, Gen Y can mobilise in minutes, and they swarm, they continually move at rapid pace towards interesting ideas and cultural objects. They move as one, they're active, they share intelligence, and above all, they're really fast. And often they don't follow a leader. Often they don't. I mean, Seth Godin talks a lot about tribes having to follow a leader, but if you look at most of the interesting cultural phenomena that's happened in the last kind of 12 months, apart from Obama, there hasn't been one leader at the front of a lot of these kind of tribal movements. It's the swarm moving. So this massive peer influence that happens on the social web has really made decision-making for young people a team sport. So now young people move en masse towards brands. So brands need to talk to the we, not the me. And I know that was kind of mentioned earlier, but I want to reiterate that point. Social media has obviously facilitated constant conversations for young people, and I'm talking probably pinpointing a little bit more at kind of the 18 to 23-year-olds. There's no hello or goodbye. There's a constant flow of information. They never turn off their iPhones or their Blackberries. There is no hello, good night. It's just this constant stream of information. And it's been said, so they're living in this state of continuous kind of partial attention, where they have this kind of attention deficit disorder. They're just jumping in between all these different kind of modes of stimulus. So it's really quite a challenge to capture their attention. I want you to remember this point. I think this is probably the biggest thing in terms of young people's behaviour today, and that's that they're chameleons. And that they have very much kind of splintered or experimental personas, and that they don't just belong to one tribe, they belong to many all at once. So on one weekend they could be this kind of indie festival rat, then they're into their gaming, then they're into the kind of surf scene, then they're into skater tribe. So they move very fluidly in between these different subcultures. And I guess the worst thing for a young person today is to be called one-dimensional. So that if I'm just viewed as a skater boy or whatever it might be, that is the worst kind of. That's like a Gen Xer talking down, oh, I was a skater once, isn't that cool? I understand you, whereas really, they are dipping in and out of lots of different subcultures, and social media has really kind of turbocharged that. So what's the implication for brands? And the implication for brands is that they need to be amazingly agile and adapt. So obviously brands need to have a core idea at the heart of what they stand for, but now more than ever, they need to be agile and adapt to how the swarm or how the tribe moves. One of the other kind of key part of Gen Y is that this is the change generation, and that every young person with pretty much, and this is not just in developed markets, this is in developing countries as well, anyone with access to a web or a smartphone has a voice. They're now empowered to make the world a better place, and the tribe or swarm, that they search for things to rebel against, and the mobile phone really plays a critical role in this kind of tribal behaviour. And this is an image from a lot of you probably saw the issues with the Iranian elections a couple of months ago, and that was really much, a lot of it was driven by Gen Ys, and that 33% of Iranians are under the age of 28. So the Iranian youth pretty much started a movement marching across Facebook, Skype, Twitter, and showing their detest of what the government were doing, and that the government actually had to turn off the telco towers to stop them. So they are very much agents of change. When looking at Facebook, Facebook and Twitter has really brought out their extroversion even more. But on the flip side of that, now with young people on Facebook, there is very much this kind of competitive pressure to constantly be in the know. And I was talking to some young kids a few weeks ago, and there's this kind of phenomenon called snooping that's going around. And snooping is basically, they spend hours trying to keep in touch with what's happening. So who's with who, what's going on this weekend, which festival we're going to. So they're now kind of almost social slipstreaming. So no one person can be an expert in every part of youth culture, all these different tribes. So they're now slipstreaming into, so someone else might be the guru, one of their friends might be a guru on music, one of their other friends might know exactly what's happening in dirt bike culture or surfing, and they kind of social slipstream within that, so that they can then have status within their friendship groups of, well, I know about that, I know that there's a lady that, Red Bull are doing something new down on Bondi Beach. So this idea of kind of social slipstreaming is really important as well. Spontaneity is another a real key thing. So in a world full of structure, and especially with, Julian was talking about university kids and kids coming kind of 16 through 18, their world's so full of structure. They're kind of 8 AM to 4 PM. It's full of structure, rules, teachers telling them what to do. What they really want to be is spontaneous. They want to live their lives in a really spontaneous way. So brands need to really give them the power to change the moment and create new kind of stories to share with their friends. So spontaneity, if your brand can deliver spontaneity, it's really important. So getting back to, so that's a little bit about Gen Y. Getting back to, I guess my key theme is that I believe brands today need to kind of experiment with popular culture and keep tribes guessing. So a lot of times brands just think about, they think quite myopically in terms of youth. They think, okay, what are our brand's attributes or emotional, functional benefits? What's the category doing? But they often forget about the broader cultural conversation that's happening. And now, it's not just trends go in and out within a week or two. So this hyper fast movement of cultural trends means it's really hard to keep up, and not many brands can. But what you really need to be doing is listening to the kind of all the conversations that are happening about your brand. And I know Jai spoke initially about all the kind of social media tools we can use, but it is very much about listening. So what does that mean? I think it's not marketing to Gen Y, it's marketing with Gen Y. And marketing with Gen Y is really thinking about how you can bounce off popular culture, how you can combine or exploit different kind of cultural tensions between objects. So whether it be looking at music and travel or dieting and gardening. It's about youth want their life to be experimental. I think brands now more than ever need to experiment with different kind of cultural nuances. And Whopper, so you all probably heard of the Burger King Whopper sacrifice, which is where when Burger King launched the Angry Whopper, and what they did was they created this Facebook page where you'd have to get a free sample of the Angry Whopper, you had to sacrifice 10 of your friends. So what they were doing, they were bouncing off popular culture, flipping a convention which is Facebook's all about adding friends. They were fucking with that and flipping it upside down, so it was about delisting friends. So they were bouncing off pop culture, but doing it in a way that was creating tension in what the preconceived notions are for what young people expect. One of the key things that I've been really excited by is, I mean, Red Bull has come up a few times, but I think they are probably, if not the best youth brand in the world, in the top 5. And I think one of the reasons why they are is that they continually create culture. They don't mimic it, they don't put a mirror up at young people, they create culture and they create conversations. The way they do that is that they create mythology around their brand. And has anyone heard of has anyone heard of Project X? That's good. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. So as you probably all know, Red Bull sponsor a lot of extreme athletes, and one of their kind of golden child is Shaun White, who won Olympic gold at snowboarding at the last Olympics. And Shaun White's this little ginger ninja. He's a real legend because he's half the year he spends skating, the other half he spends snowboarding. He does a lot of ads for HP and stuff, but what Red Bull have done is they haven't just created some ads with him. What they did was earlier this year, they went to the back parts of Colorado, and they created a secret half pipe for him to train on, right? So back then, I blogged about it in March, and no one knew if it was real or not. There was a lot of kind of chat on the blogosphere about the Red Bull half pipe, but no one knew about it. So what it was basically was you couldn't access it via road or anything. They basically flew helicopters in, dropped bombs on the side of the mountain that then dropped all the snow into an area and created this perfect secret half pipe only for Shaun White to train on. And the reason why he was doing this, which we just found out a week ago, because Red Bull has launched Project X, which is now starting to distribute that content to youth, is he was in a secret location developing 20 new tricks to unleash onto the 2010 snowboard season, lining up for the Olympics next year. So they created this mythology. Everyone was like, what's Shaun White? What's going on in this half-pipe thing in Silverton in Colorado? Now it went kind of quiet for 6 months, and now Red Bull are starting to unleash this content onto the world, and they're seeding it with all the influencers to talk about this amazing project. So check out Red Bull Project X. There's some awesome content around it. Just the last couple of examples before I finish. With youth, authenticity is critical, and this is not just with youth, it's with any brand. And DC Shoes are the kings of kind of authenticity, and many of you may have seen the Gymkhana videos on YouTube, which often hit 20 million views within a week. And the reason why they can do that is that DC Shoes is a skate kind of urban lifestyle brand, and the guy up there in the left-hand corner is Ken Block, who's their founder. But he also happens to be one of the best rally drivers in the world. So what he does is, that's him driving that Subaru WRX that's jumping between 2 mountains in the Arizona desert. They managed to create content with him driving this WRX and doing amazing tricks. And the thing that's really interesting about that is that these videos are amazingly authentic. They're shot the first time, and they just create such cult following. So it is about being really true to what your brand's all about. The other example I want to use is a quote that I put on my blog. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, and I get like 700 views on this article a day. So obviously a lot of people are interested in it. And this is a quote from the Nike UK marketing director, Simon Penstridge. "We don't do advertising, we do cool stuff. We no longer need awareness, we need to become part of people's lives. Digital allows us to do that." So this is probably the top 5 youth brands in the world, Nike, if not in the top 2. Their shift now is very much to look at how they can become part of the cultural consciousness by doing stuff for youth, not just talking down to them, creating culture, doing stuff. And Nike Bootcamp, which they launched last year, was an amazing example of that, and I'm not sure if anyone knows about it, but it was essentially a cross-platform training game where young people, all delivered via the mobile phone, where young people could get access to training guides developed by Ronaldo and all the Nike football superstars, and it basically instantly spawned a kind of social network of competition. So it was all about how fast you could run, how hard you could kick, and so they basically tapped into the tribe's need for competition. I'm going to leave you with this two thoughts to finish. Is that today, brands need to be social accelerators. You need to find out how you can accelerate their social life. And when you accelerate their social life, it's all about how you can experiment and bounce off different parts of pop culture to create new and interesting phenomena for youth to play with. Because when they start playing with things, that's when they start spreading the stories and playing with those games. The last thing I want to leave you with is the needs for brands to constantly be in beta mode. And you've probably all seen websites that kind of have beta written up in the left-hand corner, but and I guess that's been a constant phenomenon for the last kind of couple of years of online brands continuing to experiment. But I think brands that exist in broader culture have to create continuous conversations, not campaigns. They have to look at how they can really adapt to what's happening in culture and be really agile to move with what the swarm is doing, so that they as themselves are constantly in beta mode. And I think lastly what they need to do is they need to embrace a kind of fail forward approach, in that if you put 10 things out there, 10 social ideas out there, only 3 or 4 of them will probably work. But that's okay. Young people give you credit for that, give you credit for trying. It's worth to do nothing than to try. So I think it's very much about how you can experiment with ideas that obviously are based on strong cultural insights and bouncing off different interesting cultural phenomena. Last thing, I also have a blog. It's called Dan Pankraz vs. Youth. Dan Pankraz vs.